So everybody, welcome officially to the 7 Daring Sins #Truth Talk training, webinar, session, whatever you want to call it. Thank you all for being here. I'm Tiffany Hahn. I am your host today. If you don't know me, you should, because I don't know how else you got here, but if you got here and you don't know me, awesome. Welcome. Super glad to have you here. I'm a coach. I'm a podcast host. I am a writer and a speaker and a teacher. And I am most interested in my work with helping teach smart, driven, ambitious women who are super capable how to stop saying no to what everybody else wants them to do and start saying yes to themselves so that they can live their most connected, most in tune lives. And what I have found is that when we're able to raise our hands and say yes to ourselves and the things that we really want to do, be, and say, that we're actually able to be of greatest service to the world. And so doing the things that feel selfish, or that feel counterintuitive to what we've been taught to do and how we've been taught to show up. I actually think that those are the keys to us living our most fulfilled lives and making the biggest difference that we can in the world. I think that they really, really go hand in hand. And I am really interested in my work in turning those things that we've been taught that lead us to feel bad or shameful or guilty, turning those upside down and really trying to figure out a new path forward, in that we can, again, find freedom, but without compromising our standards or our sanity. So I am not someone who the answer is going to be like, you just have to work harder, or even telling people that they need to get up 2 hours early in order to get things done. That's not my way, and I don't actually think that's the answer. So my goal by the end of this training session, whether you're watching online after the fact, watching the replay, or you're here live, thank you to everyone who came live. I love having y'all here. My goal is to really shake up your thinking. And to, when I was thinking about this training, what I kept doing was this, like with my hands, and I kept thinking about, I feel like my job is, in a way, it would be very convenient if I could promise all of these super external things, like I'm going to teach you how to make $1 million and lose all the weight and blah, 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 blah. And instead, I really think that my job and my purpose and my goal with all my work is to like agitate things, and to imagine being like in the ocean, right? And the sand underneath, like when it gets agitated from underneath with a crab or a little fishy or something, it like shakes everything up. And everything changes after that, right? And things get shaken up and then it settles. And my whole goal with this training is to do a little agitation and to try to introduce to you a different way of looking at yourself, of looking at your life, of looking at the things that you've been taught, of looking at the things that maybe are holding you back, in a way that is no longer serving you because you're an adult, and start to figure out a new path forward, one where ideally you step into a deeper communion with yourself. So hopefully that sounds good. Y'all let me know in the chat if you're like, yes, yes. I also suspect that some of y'all might be listening to this and like a little like, what is she gonna do, right? And I want to point out sometimes that we often have things in our lives that we want to go after, or changes that we know need to be made, but we are afraid of the disruption, and we are afraid of really that agitation. So I want to encourage you today to listen to yourself and to give your own ideas about your life as much weight as you give everybody else's ideas about your life. Thinking about, we all have are walking around with some kind of baggage from something that someone said some time ago, whether it was a friend, a parent, a teacher, a book, podcast host, a preacher, a weird uncle. Like, we all have that baggage, an ex or a current partner. And pay attention to what you're giving the power in your life to. And pay attention to where you might be giving that power away. And think about what could shift if you started listening to yourself as much as you listen to other people. If you started letting yourself be the authority of your life as much as you started taking input from the commercials or the magazines or the Instagram or, right? Okay. If you're like, yeah, give me a hell yes in the chat. So I can make sure that everyone is on board. Otherwise, we're gonna have to totally change this training up. Yes. Okay. Got some yeses. Yes. Great. So let me get my slides. Awesome. Okay. And if you're feeling like you can even like whisper yes. Sometimes raising our hands and saying yes involves like jumping up and down on the couch, Tom Cruise style, like remember on Oprah. But sometimes it also involves being like, guys, oh my God, I don't know. Wow, okay, I'm in. Right? So if it's a little lowercase whispered yes, that's fine. Still counts. It all still counts. So let's get into our slides. 7 daring sins. Oops. Hold on. Funny thing happened yesterday, y'all. When I went to email everybody the confirmation for today, I sent the email and then I looked at it. I mean, I looked at it before I sent it, but I wrote it and tested it, and then I finally hit send, and then I looked at it again, and I realized that I had written in the body of the email, I'm so excited that you're going to join me for the 7 Deadly Sins webinar tomorrow. And I was like, oh, but then I was so glad that I had done that, because what it shows is how deeply ingrained the idea and the association that we've been taught with sin equals deadly, right? Sin equals deadly, the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, it's big. And it is something that we don't even know we're carrying around with ourselves until we start to kind of zoom out and look at what's happening with what we've been taught about sin. So part of what I'm doing here today is trying to really help teach y'all how you can start living from your true values, from your core values. And any of you who have worked with me before know that I am all about core values. And I think that core values are really everything. So what I'm after here is how we can use the idea of sin. We can flip it on its head so that it's no longer deadly, but it's daring. And I'm really hoping that I don't call it the 7 deadly sins as we talk, because again, it's that like brain muscle memory. How we can start looking at sin as a good thing. How can we start looking at our natural instincts as beneficial to us? How we can stop overperforming. Anyone? For the sake of the lives that someone else dictates to us, and how we can really start harnessing our core values in order to live our most enjoyable and most impactful lives. So we're after both, right? We're after both. Want to let y'all know, if you have questions as I'm teaching, please put those into the chat. We've got Erin Cassidy, my right hand, is here, and she will be helping moderate the chat. Also, if you have any questions, technical questions or anything like that, Erin is on hand to help with that. So we're going to dive in. Yeah. So I'm here today, I'm leading this teaching, I'm leading this training because we have a problem. And by we, I mean all of us in this room, but I think also modern society and modern culture. And the problem has everything to do with sin. The problem has everything to do with what we've been taught about who we are, about how we determine worth, about what goodness is, and about what success looks like as a modern woman. Has everything to do with sin. But before we dive into the sin and deconstruct that, let's back up for a second and let's rewind back to the 4th century. And this was something, y'all, that kind of blew my mind when I learned about it. And I felt like learning about this was when all of the pieces came together about why we struggle, why we're challenged, why it's hard to be us. The doctrine of original sin was introduced and really strengthened back in the 4th century during the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. And what happened was barbarians were taking over, and Augustine realized that the power of the Holy Roman Empire was slipping, and that all of these barbaric people who enjoyed sex were starting to take over. And they had a little bit of a panic and said, what can we do? And they introduced the doctrine of original sin. And the doctrine of original sin said that humans are flawed. We are born flawed. They actually extended this doctrine to say that sin, the desire to sin or sinful nature, is passed down through women via procreation and sex. Augustine also went so far as to say that like women were kind of irrelevant and that God should have just made more men, because we had no purpose except for birthing children, which were just beings of sin, and that the only way out of sin was through the church, through baptism, and through this relationship with God, which was only accomplished via the church. So that's really messed up, right? Before that, the religion, Christianity looked much more favorably upon women. It talked about a loving human nature and community and connection and all of that. And this introduction of the doctrine of original sin really shaped the direction of the church and the direction of what was included in the Bible. Because remember, that was edited by men for 1600 years. So I want to just take a minute to appreciate and think about when we wonder, why don't we trust ourselves? Why is it so hard for me to trust myself for the things that I want to do in my life, right? Like beyond sin, just why is it so hard for me to put faith in the things that I want in my ideas? Why is that so challenging? I think it actually has a lot to do with this. I think it has a lot to do with this idea being introduced as means of control and as means of holding power, and that we have then integrated that into our culture and our society for 1600 years. Anybody else looking around being like, oh my God, what if there's a better way? What if we don't have to live by this anymore? So the result that we're talking about 1600 years later, y'all, we don't trust ourselves. We don't let ourselves want what we want. And we spend our days, weeks, and years trying to live up to some impossible standard of self, telling ourselves that if and when we get to a certain point, we will be happy, we will be satisfied, and we will be enough. But we don't think that we are enough just as we are right here, right now. Because it's all tied to what we do. It's all tied to how good we are. It's all tied to how much we deny ourselves, right? And the things that we really want. And the things that we really want to say, and the things that we really want to be, the things that we really want to do. And we often quiet those things because we are afraid that we can't be trusted and that we're not good enough. And so we wait and 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 we put off following through on what we really want. Maggie is over there barking an amen. We put them off and 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 we put them off. And, part of what I try to do with my work is instill a sense of urgency, like wrapped up in a cocoon of love and grace and kindness and gentleness and compassion. So I want us all to get going, but I also want us to chill out all at the same time. And I do think that it's possible. Again, it's that idea of moving forward on this version of your life that you want without compromising your standards or your sanity. And I think that those go hand in hand. So we're afraid of the things that we really want to do, be, and say. Here's what happens is we find ourselves living on the brink of burnout or with just a low grade dissatisfaction, right? Does that sound familiar at all? Like, I know that I should be really happy about everything, and I know that it's going really well, and I know that everybody tells me that I have everything I could ever want. And yet, at the end of the day, I know something's missing. And yet, at the end of the day, I know there's more out there waiting for me. And yet, at the end of the day, I know that I'm not showing up the way that I want to be showing up. But rather than being inspired by that, I feel like shit. It feels awful. Sorry, let me stop that dog. Maggie, stop. Quiet, please. Quiet. I'm asking her to be something she's not, but because she's in the room, she needs to kind of get on board, right? So does this sound familiar? Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else ever have the feeling you wake up in the morning and you're already tired? But you can't sleep more, you can't chill out more, you can't take a break because there's just too much to do, too much to get done. But you won't even let yourself stop to question if you want to really be doing the things that you are working, killing yourself so hard to do, because you know that if you do that, it's all going to fall. Right? So we're on the unicycle with the stick, with the spinning plates. But you can't stop, because if you stop, it all crumbles. And you don't even really want to ride the unicycle. You're like, I don't even like this fucking unicycle. It's uncomfortable and it's not fun. And I could just put it all down and use my legs. So if you found yourself knowing that things will get better once I get XYZ, if you found yourself talking yourself out of doing the things you really want to be doing, or, hi, not even sure what you want or who you really are. This is totally that we've been taught not to trust ourselves, that we've been taught that we don't know enough, that we are not enough without these other things. And that women, we're just nothing but a womb. What's the point of us? One guy, this was one guy, y'all, 1,600 years ago. We're still being through that baggage. Or if you found yourself wondering why you have to work so hard for something that you don't even want, that you're not even sure that you want. And yet, all of these things are true, and yet, you still say yes to everyone else. You still show up as a go-getter, and you still overperform for the sake of the life that someone else has dictated for you, because it is a hard pattern to break. It is a really hard pattern to break. Think about, have y'all ever done like cross-country skiing or teleskiing? And when you do teleskiing, your skis go into these tracks in the snow. And it's like, this deep, and it's a little track. And I always think about these tracks. I've never done this kind of skiing, but I've snowshoed on teleskiing paths. So I see it, but you don't step in it because it's going to mess it up. But when you're in those paths, they're grooved, right? The snow is grooved. And what happens is that you want to get your ski in that groove because it makes it easier. Here's what happens when we try to show up differently in our lives, which again, my goal is that we all do that by the end of this, or that we all start to. We're planting seeds here, planting seeds. Is that when we're in these grooves, when we're showing up the way that we have been taught is the right, the good, the correct way to show up, there's not that much friction. Because no one in our life is going to be like, you should really not volunteer for that thing that you're volunteering for that's going to totally benefit me. No, not so we're adults and we should be able to make those choices for ourselves, right? But I think that sometimes we think if all the people around us are saying yes, oh, thank you, that's great. I love that you're the person who just gets it all done. And then we're like sobbing at night into our pillow because we're so tired. And because we know that we keep deferring the thing that we really want to be doing because there's just too much to do and we're never going to get to the end of our to-do list. And blah, 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 right? Anyone? Me too. Yeah. We're in that groove. And so, yeah, stepping out of it is going to take energy. It's going to take some focus. It's going to take some attention. It's going to take some effort. And also, once you step out of it, you might still find yourself slipping back down. That's how this works. You might find yourself back in there. That's how this works. You might find yourself all of a sudden, you don't even realize you're just going and then you're like, oh my God, I'm doing it again. And we think that means we failed. But what it really means is that your attention got diverted, and that's part of being human, and that's part of life, and that's part of trying. And these false starts that we all experience all the time. Hi, me trying to come up with a meditation habit for the last 2.5 years. All of these false starts, the fact that you pick it back up again shows that you want it. And an unwillingness to quit is the thing that's going to guarantee success. Because the only thing that guarantees failure is that you stop. You stop trying. You just give up. And you say, oh, fine. I'll just stay on this path, whatever. Because here's the thing, is that if you wanted to be that person who gives up and lives in that well-worn, comfortable path, you wouldn't be here today. So let's keep going. You know it's not working, but you aren't sure how to make it stop. You aren't sure how to make the overperforming stop. You aren't sure how to really get in touch with what you want. So I say, let's talk about sin. Let's dive in. Why is it so uncomfortable? Because we've been taught that sin is bad. We've been taught that if you sin, therefore you are bad because sin is bad. And we've been taught our job as women in this world is to be good and sweet and pretty and quiet and be seen and not heard. Therefore, we cannot sin, because if we sin, we are bad. No wonder that we're all exhausted. Also, your life is full. I get it. You're doing a lot. I get it. There's already enough on your to-do list. So is this really the time to introduce something else that feels big and different and powerful and like, could this be really shaking things up? Like, kind of nervous here. You know, yes. I'm going to raise my hand and say yes to that. Yes. I think that it is the time to introduce it, because I think that we cannot put off living the lives that we want to live, right? I think that the best time to start is right now. Anyone else? Yeah, with me? Let me know. Give me a yes. Give me an amen. It's in all caps, yes. Also a disclaimer here, y'all. Anyone here, anyone who's in this room, virtually or watching the replay, you are an amazing, loving, creative, smart, kind person. You are not an asshole. You are not a jerk. You are not selfish. You are not irresponsible. So remember this, you guys screenshot this and make this your desktop wallpaper if you need it, if you need that reminder of why it's okay for you to do this work, why it's okay for you to show up in your life differently. This is why. So what feels selfish or self-indulgent or lazy. So we're going to talk about lazy is my favorite. What feels like that is going to feel uncomfortable because that groove that you find yourself in is so comfortable and so ingrained. It's not selfish. It's not, because what we need in this world more than anything are people who are deeply in communion with themselves and are willing to take a stand and willing to speak up and willing to speak out and willing to show up and willing to say, this is what matters most, even if it's disruptive to everyone around me, right? So here's what I want you to know. You're spending more time, money, and energy holding yourself back. If you've ever tried to drive a car with the emergency brake on, you know that that is hard. And you, as a human, as a divine being in this human body and this human experience, which I truly believe we all are, you are here to live full out. And you're spending more energy holding yourself back, more time trying to deny those things and find some external source of validation, more money. Can't even tell y'all how much money I used to spend on alcohol, or like boredom shopping, right? All of those are signs of this low-grade dissatisfaction. It's holding you back. Also, embracing your natural desires will help you be of more service to the world, not less. And it might not disrupt everything the way that you think it could. It might be that nothing looks different from the outside, but that the way that you feel when you wake up in the morning is radically altered. Here's the thing. The thought of disrupting it all is even more exhausting than it is to simply maintain the status quo of just fine. For a lot of us, right? I can't make any changes because if I do that, I just don't have any energy left and it's just going to blow everything up and I can't handle it. Yeah, I get it. Except it's not. Because fear is self-fulfilling, right? And when we act out of fear, that thing that we are most afraid of will come true. For example, when I quit drinking over 2 years ago, I got very uncomfortable because a lot of things in my life, a lot of systems in my life were built around alcohol. It's how I connected with people. It's how I celebrated. It's how I had fun. It's how I was sad. It's how I came down at the end of the day. It's how I managed stress. It was part of my brand. There was champagne everywhere. It was like a whole thing. And I was afraid that quitting drinking, I mean, it was like, oh, there's no way I could do that because it would disrupt everything. I was afraid that it would disrupt everything. What I found out though, and what I realized when I started to really look at my own behavior right before I quit, was if I don't quit drinking now for fear of that disruption, 10 years from now, it's going to be a problem with a capital P. And it's not going to be a good look. And then it's really going to disrupt everything to the point that it might be unfixable, that it might be permanent, that it might be irreversible. So we often think that we have to get to the place of wanting to burn it all down before we make a change. The thing is, once you burn it all down, you have to start from scratch. And there are a lot of beautiful, amazing things in your life that you have worked really hard to get. So what if you can make the change without having to set it all on fire? What if you can make the change without having to blow it all up? What if you can start to make tiny tweaks today that, again, may not look that different? My life doesn't look, I mean, besides moving to Colorado, a little bit different. My life doesn't look that different than it did back when I was drinking. But if y'all, anyone who's been paying attention or following me or listening in, knows that it's the way that I'm showing up is so much different. So don't let that fear be self-fulfilling. We're afraid to, if you have a business, you're afraid to sell because you're afraid no one's going to want the thing and it's not going to make any difference for people. And therefore you don't talk about it. And therefore nobody buys it. And therefore it doesn't make a difference in anyone's life. Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares because they don't even know it exists, right? You're afraid to show up as yourself at a party because that's uncomfortable. And so you drink, which makes you loud and it makes you say things that you regret saying. And look what happened. You didn't show up as yourself. So don't let that fear be a driver of your behavior. Don't let the fear of sin, being bad, keep you from really embracing your natural instincts and urges and trusting yourself. So finally, let's dive into sin. The 7 deadly sins. Deadly. Because remember, no one here is an asshole. You're all wonderful, glorious, beautiful people. Lust, greed, envy, gluttony, sloth, pride, wrath. Doesn't it feel like a little bit subversive even to be talking about this? Isn't it like, can we go there? Can we go there? I mean, I've not been struck down yet, so let's go there, right? Right? So back to this list. So here's what I want y'all to do. I want you to get a piece of paper, or do it on an app, but don't open your phone right now. Get a piece of paper and write all of these on one side of paper. Lust, greed, envy, gluttony, sloth, pride, wrath. So this all starts with you letting yourself want what you want. So I want you to think about, for each one of these, right next to it, what does your lust want? Right? What does your greed want for you? This might be uncomfortable, y'all, because again, we have been taught our entire lives, and think about like generations before us, this is in our genes, to deny ourselves these things. So I don't need you to be comfortable with this, but I do need you to try it. What does your envy want? What does your gluttony want? Yeah. What does your sloth want? What does your pride want? What does your wrath want? So take a minute, and what I want you to do as you think this through is go with the first thing that pops in your head, right? You don't have to share this with anyone. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to like pin it to your wall or put it up on Instagram. So, but again, let yourself want what you want for all of these things. So we're just going to take a couple of minutes, and I want y'all to, if there's anything that Christina says I'm never sharing my list. Yeah. If there's anything that like jumps out, because we're gonna talk a little bit about what's next with this. And I will also, I can share with y'all what I think about it. When I think about this, and then if too, I'm just checking in the chat. I love seeing all of these yes and amens. You guys are amazing. So glad you're here. Okay. I think it's uncomfortable, but you're doing it, right? Everyone's here. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's showing up. Everyone's answering the questions. Which is the best. So remember too that you can keep coming back to this, right? I'm gonna pause the screen share for a minute. To just hi face. Any questions? Yeah, is it bad if it was super easy? No, that's awesome. That is great. Yeah, some of these words do have a lot of power over us, right? Some of them, I always think of the movie Seven. I think that's what I think about whenever I do this work or talk about this or think about this, and like how it was really like the sins personified. So Kat also says, I guess I've been stewing in frustration for a little while. Yeah, y'all, as you start to work on this, ideally it feels super freeing. Ideally you're like, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't even know that I could do this, right? Like part of what I'm trying to do here is give you permission to want what you want, to show up and to say it out loud, even if out loud is just on a piece of paper in your journal that later you're going to like tear up because you don't want to find. That's okay. It's okay. You know, that's why I'm here leading the webinar, because I don't mind talking about it out loud. So uncomfortable. And these words, they are triggering because we've all, lust is bad. Gluttony is bad. Greed is bad, right? Money is a root of all evil. Envy is bad. So let's continue. It all starts with letting yourself want what you want. Why is it so important? It's important because we spend a lot of time, money, and energy denying ourselves what we really want and holding ourselves back from being the people that we know we want to be and from living the lives that we know we are meant to live. But also because what you want actually points to your own core personal values. So I'm going to walk y'all through some examples of this. And talk about how this works, right? So for me, when I think about my life goals and I think about the things that I really want to do, be and say in this world, it is, I mean, you can read it on my website, right? It's all right there. But really, I feel like I am on a mission to both teach and be an example of what happens when smart, ambitious women raise their hands and say yes to what they really want. And in the meantime, say no to the bullshit of what the world is telling them to be so that they can be of greatest service, so that they can make a difference in the world, so that they can then be examples of what's possible and influence future generations about making change in this world and living our quote unquote best Oprah lives, if you will. All of that, right? That is like what my work centers around, is what my podcast centers around, all of my writing, but also I feel this like deep ingrained responsibility to show my daughters and their friends and people a different way of showing up than we've been taught. So no one's arguing with that, right? And now though, let's take that idea and talk about how sin can feed into it. So what does my lust want? My lust wants to have a lot of good sex. Lots of orgasms, lots of connection, lots of belly laughs, lots of fun, lots of not taking myself too seriously, and also lots of honoring my body. Because my body has the ability to give and receive pleasure. Great. Now, as I say that out loud, again, I haven't been struck down. The heavens haven't parted. Still here, as far as I know. Still standing, still talking about this stuff. So what would giving into that give me? Right? If I let that lust in, if I opened up the door to what my lust wants, well, it would help me feel banging in my body. It would give me confidence. I would have less stress. I'd be sleeping better. I'd be more connected to my husband. I would probably have some more freedom. I'd probably feel more ease in my life. And do you see how that directly points to my ultimate goal and my ultimate mission? Confidence. Yeah. I don't hold myself back. I know what I want and I'm not afraid to go after it. I know it brings me pleasure and joy. Yes. What does my greed want? My greed wants to make a lot of money. My greed wants to be able to pay someone to clean my house and to be able to pay for home delivered groceries. My greed doesn't want to work that hard, right? My greed doesn't want to have to bleed for success. What does that point to? that points to part of why I want to make a lot of money is so that I can give a lot of it away. Because I think that I can be a better steward of resources than some of the other people out there who are sitting on gold toilets taking a dump. So my greed thinks that I could do a better job of that I could make a lot of money and then be of great service to the world. I also know that if I'm successful, it means that I'm reaching people. It means that I'm taking this message that I feel is so important and getting it out into the world. That's what my greed wants. Again, that points directly to my bigger goals in my life that are of service. What does my envy want? My envy, let's talk about my envy. My envy sees people out there online killing it, doing all the things, and I'm not buying it because I don't think they're going deep enough, or I think they're selling an empty promise, or I think they are living right up here on the surface telling you that the secret to life is to be a size 2 and that that's your life purpose. And I look at that and I do feel envy because I think, you know what I have to say is so much more important than that. Why are they out there killing it and I can't be? So you know what my envy tells me? My envy is like, get to work, girl. Figure it out. Keep going, keep talking, keep sharing, keep teaching, keep writing, keep podcasting, keep putting it out there. Keep trying different things to figure out what's going to get you there so that people start paying attention, so that we start to live in communion with our values. What does my gluttony want? My gluttony wants to eat good food. I want to be able to have decisions about mealtime be easier, please. I want to be able to eat food that feels nourishing and delicious. Do I want to eat until I just feel disgusting? No. But I want an ease around eating. I want meal times to be a celebration, maybe a point of connection. So if that's gluttony, yeah, I'll take it. Because that's what my gluttony wants. How does that point to the bigger picture, my personal values? Because I know that if I am eating food that is nourishing and enriching to me, I show up from a completely different space. I feel good. I have energy. I'm not bogged down. I'm not in that like fog, that Taco Bell fog. Because ultimately I don't want to like just eat nachos supreme. I know that's not going to appeal to me. What is my sloth want? Ooh. Y'all, I went to bed last night at 8:30 and I got up at 6:30. And let me tell ya, that 10 hours in bed did a body good. So my sloth wants to spend a lot of time in bed. So Les is like, high five. My new favorite thing is to eat ice cream in bed. It's the best. So gluttony's like, yeah. My greed is like, it's a good ice cream too. I want to spend a lot of time in bed. Do y'all know that the military has done, the US Army has done studies on human productivity and human performance, because that's what they do, right? And they have found that the optimal number of hours to be in bed, they call it TIB, time in bed, for optimal human performance is 9 hours. 9 hours. When was the last time you spent 9 hours in your bed? What would change if you were rested? What would change in your life if you stopped priding yourself, if we as a culture stopped priding ourselves on how little sleep we needed, or how tired we are, or how busy we were? Or if we stopped chasing time management and efficiency as a way of like doing more and keeping up with more and taking on more? What would happen? What would change for you? Yeah. So what does my pride want? My pride wants people to know about my work. My pride wants to see my name on a book at Barnes & Noble. My pride wants to stand in front of a stage in front of an audience and talk about these things and broadcast all of these things. Yeah. Again, what does that have to do with my big mission in this life? Everything. Everything. It has everything to do with it. Has everything to do with it. Points to values, integrity, authenticity, connection, communication, creativity, expression, trust, respect, right? What does my wrath want? My wrath wants to be able to speak up when I see somebody not being treated well. My wrath wants to allow anger to come out when it's important. And to say, I resent that. I resent you. I am frustrated by this. This is not okay. It's part of what I'm doing here, right? My wrath wants to be allowed to rage when rage is justified. But how many of us have been told we're not allowed? It's impolite. It's unbecoming. So you need to just sit quietly over there. We'll let you know when it's your turn. It's our turn now. So do you guys see how all of a sudden these sins have power? These sins point to those innate desires that we have been bottling down forever, right? Do you see how much energy you, me, all of us, right? Look around. How much energy we've all been spending in denying ourselves these things, in denying ourselves these feelings, in denying ourselves the right to experience what we experience as humans. And do you see how letting ourselves have this stuff is going to completely disrupt systems that have been created to work against us? Because in this world, loving yourself, speaking your truth is a radical act. Also, the big, bold truth here, right, is that values are everything. Values are everything. It is so easy to focus on external things as measures of fulfillment. But if you're anything like me, you've done the thing that everyone promised would give you happiness. You started the business, or you started the blog, or you said the thing on Instagram, or you found the partner, or you got the job, or you got the raise, or you bought the house, or you bought the car, or you had the kids, or you got the shirt, or you got the shoe, whatever. You do the thing you work so hard for, and then you come out of it and you're like, oh, I still feel the same. Still feels like me. Yeah. Because what matters more than the thing or the external result is, are you honoring your values? Are you living a life that's in alignment with your values? And I really believe that this is one key and one way into it. So what now? Let yourself feel what you feel. A lot of what we're doing here is like taking a flashlight and starting to shine it on things that have been kept in the dark. So if it feels uncomfortable, it feels uncomfortable. If you're like, whoa, what about that? Great. If you're not sure what to do next, great. All of it counts. All of it's totally great. This is a starting place, not the finish line. So you're not supposed to have everything figured out right now. You're not supposed to know exactly what's next. You're not supposed to be like, and here's my really brilliant put together action plan. Integration is key. Integration is also the hard part. We think that raising our hands and saying yes is the hard part, because often that's what feels the most uncomfortable, but really integration is the hard part. So is everybody, how are y'all feeling? Let me know in the chat. Are y'all feeling like, hopefully a little energized, hopefully a little like, oh my God, can I be doing this? Is this okay? Yeah, so Catherine says it feels really clarifying. Awesome. Um, oh, interesting. Hannah said, I wrote things that I thought were my flaws next to my sins. I have a different perspective. Yeah. What if there are no flaws? Right? What if there's no such thing as a flaw? What if the start is being really kind and generous to ourselves and compassionate and realizing like, you're not an asshole. What if that's like the biggest gift we can give ourselves right now? It's just that realization that we're amazing as we are. And that we're powerful in ways we don't even know. And that power comes from within us, not from how many boxes we check on somebody else's to-do list, right? Yeah, yeah. So I would love to take a minute, y'all, and tell you about a little something I've been working on. Full disclosure, I'm going to tell you about a class I teach that is really designed to help you around this integration piece. So hopefully y'all are a yes to that. And then what I want to do, we'll probably go about 15 minutes over because I also want to be able to answer any questions that y'all have. So if you have questions about this idea, pop those into the chat and Erin is going to grab them. But also I'm really, really excited to tell you about what I've created that really helps with the integration. Because what I found again is that it's very, very easy to raise your hand and say yes and go for something and have that like initial burst of energy. It's a lot harder to maintain it and to, there's Maggie again, and to figure out a way to keep going and to really integrate this vision of your life with where you are right now. But you don't have to go it alone. And no one's talking about how the integration piece is so much harder. You know, everyone is selling the quick fix, and I will. I've bought before like the workout plans, right? So you're gonna get like this booklet, and it's gonna teach you all the workouts, and you just do the things step by step, and then you buy it, and you're like, yes, this is gonna change my life, and then you get home and you're like, yeah, womp womp, I actually have to do it, and it's hard. Yeah. So enter, raise your hand, say yes. Y'all, this is a year-long class that I teach that is centered around how do you figure out what you really want to do? How do you define that? And then also, how do you then resituate your life so that you can integrate it, so that you can shift both the things that you do and the person that you are to match with this life vision? And how can you then also create a habit of sustainable success? How can you figure out a way to be able to keep going, even when things get hard, even when fear shows up, even when your to-do list is barking at you? Maggie, come here, lay down. Lay down, I know. Sorry. Literally, your to-do list is barking at you. And how are you able to keep going? Now, here's the thing about me and my work. And I think that we've got some students in here right now too watching this. I know that teaching a year-long class is inconvenient. And I know that, I'm going to stop the screen share for a minute. And I know that it's a big investment, time, money, energy, and it's a big commitment. And people always ask me, why do you teach a year-long class? Why can't you, can I just do like 1 month, please? And here's why the answer is no. It's because we are good at distracting ourselves with the 1 month classes. We are good at distracting ourselves with starting. We are good at distracting ourselves with that quick burst of action. What we're not good at is the integration. And so this is why I've created what I've created is because the integration piece is key. And because I know that showing up for a year means that you are so much more likely to have continued success. So that's why we do what we do, y'all. That's why this is a year. So Erin, if you could, I want to just show y'all, walk you through this sales page and tell you a little bit about this class, and then we are going to get back into all the things and answer any questions that you have. So let me share this with you. So what is Raise Your Hand, Say Yes? What am I doing here? What am I teaching? What I'm really teaching is a practical framework around how can you raise your hand and say yes, again, to all those things you want to do, be, and say without compromising your standards or your sanity. Because what I have found is that we are idling. We're driving with our emergency brakes on, and it's not working. It's not serving us. It's not serving the people around us that we are trying so hard to show up for, and it's not serving the world. The main problem is you're capable of so much more, and that you're sitting on buckets of latent potential, but you're waiting around to really embrace those. And I say, let's embrace them now. So what I've created, y'all, again, year-long class structured around becoming that person who raises her hand, that says yes, trusts that she's going to figure things out, and then follows through and integrates this into her life. My goal is to wake you up, shake you up, scare you in just the right way. So Erin, can you put the chat, the link to this into the chat? You guys are getting a sneak peek of this. It doesn't even go public until next week. But what I have found when I'm doing this again is that the real secret to success, it's all right here, is learning how to cultivate resilience, grit, stamina, and connection while you also get moving, so that you can gain the experience you need for true knowing and mastery in your life for the things that you want to do. And embracing sin it's all about that. It's all about that. So what's included, you might be wondering? We've got monthly live lessons where the curriculum is really, really laid out in a way that helps you. The sin thing is actually part of what I teach in month one. It helps you really get to the core of what you want in a way that feels completely subversive and flips everything upside down. And then you start to look at what needs to shift in your life. How can you simplify your days? How can you shift the way that you show up? How can you both learn how to take action in a way that feels completely sane and loving and generous and kind to yourself, while also shifting the things that you believe to be true? And I think that what I'm really after is helping you go into that Venn diagram cross section, right, of the being and the doing, and then that's how the integration happens. So we've got the monthly live lessons, y'all. There's a workbook. So our new workbook is at the printer right now, but this is the current class's workbook. And the workbook is designed to help you have zero excuses to do the work, y'all. And the workbook is, I am obsessed with it. I love it. And every single month, all of the worksheets are in here. There's actually spots for you to take notes on all the lessons. But one of the things that I love the most about it is that there's also these tracker charts every single month. And what I have you do is figure out what you can commit to that's going to move your vision of your life forward. And it might be, I'm going to write my novel every day. Or it might be like, I am going to say 5 kind things to myself today. Or I'm going to say no 3 times. Or I'm going to be in bed at 9 o'clock, right? I'm going to work on that time in bed thing. And everybody is going to also get gold stars, which I can't find my gold stars. Oh, everybody gets gold stars, and then you can keep track. It's so fun to get to give yourself a gold star every day. And again, this is designed to help you create a habit out of showing up for yourself. And the workbook is also my way of helping you not have any excuses, because I don't want it to be something where you sign up for the class and then, 9 months in, you finally get ink for your printer and you're able to print the things out. So you get the workbook. You also get, there's a kit that the workbook is included in, a welcome kit. We are the hand raisers and yes, sales. It's one of my favorite things about my job is getting to send people things in the mail. So in in addition to all of that, there is a monthly Q&A call. There are also monthly office hours, and I'm doing the monthly office hours 2 different times to accommodate different time zones. Make it really, really easy. It's just a space for you to show up, talk through anything that you need to talk through, ask any questions that are coming up in like a safe space, right? Because a lot of times we have questions that aren't showing up in really tidy ways. There's also a courage challenge every month. And the courage challenge is a way for you to show up and actually take some bold action in favor of the life that you want to be living for yourself. We all do them. I do them too. There's a spot in the workbook for the courage challenge. And that is your way. That's the way that I really test your beliefs and say, what do you really believe is going on? What's really true? I bet you can do it anyway. So good. We've got a community in Mighty Networks. There are other secrets in the mail that will come. It's just really fun. There are also some fun bonuses that I'm doing. And one of the new bonuses that I've created is a core values masterclass that is really designed to help you identify your core values, figure out how they're showing up in your life and how they're missing. And I really find that the core values work is a cornerstone of this. Some of y'all might have taken my 31 Days to Flow class, and that is, in that class, we sort of go into the core values too. And what I found is that people who take that class are able to connect to this work a little bit more deeply because they've already done the values work. So I decided I'm just going to make it part of it. And that core values masterclass bonus actually starts next Monday. And it's a way to kind of get into the work before we start Raise Your Hand, Say Yes in April. I've also got a couple other fun bonuses. There's a meditation 10-pack from my friend and meditation guru, Lacey Young, as well as a workbook, Idea Generation 101. It's really good, y'all. I love it. And here is the thing. Let me come back to our slides. Whoops, that's not what I need to share. I get excited. Can you tell when I start talking about this stuff? So I'm supposed to currently, right, like the way that internet sales go, I'm supposed to have confetti cannons. And the thing where I say, like, this is worth $1 million, and then blah, 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 and the countdown timer and tell you that you have to act now, and like overwhelm you with all the material and all the excitement, and like do the things and draw on the walls and jump up and down, but be like, it's only gonna last for the next 5 minutes. But here's the thing. You're smarter than that, and you deserve better. I think we all deserve better. And also, it's not my job to trick you into changing your life. Here's what I will tell you is that, like I said, registration is currently open secretly. It's going to go public next week. But for everybody who signs up by the end of February, which is in 2 days, not only do you get all the bonuses, but you also get a bonus call with me the week before we start the class. So it's going to be a bonus call to talk about the core values. It's only going to be with the people who sign up in advance. And it's going to be intimate but good. And it's going to give you a chance to really ask questions about those core values and see, like, you'll have then had a month, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks to spend with them. And then you'll be able to really get to dive deeper into that. I will also tell you this. When last time I sold this class back in October, I sold out at 150 spots. I now only have 100 spots because I've decided to offer it twice a year instead of once a year. So it's not sold out. I would be lying if I was like, it's almost sold out. That's not true. But the data says it will sell out. So if you know that you want this, if you know that you're ready to dive in, then come on, let's do it, right? Let's go. It's so great. Also, this work will change your life if you do it. I see it all the time. I see it happen month 1, month 2. People all of a sudden are like, what has happened? It's all different. So, no bigs. If you have questions about that too, let me know. I I just think everybody here is amazing. I want to answer other questions that y'all have. There have been a couple. So Michelle S. asks, how about for those of us who don't seem to have a clue about what it is that we really want to be doing? I know. This is hard, right? It's hard to see that. It's especially hard when often we are really good at a lot of things in our life. And then it's like, but I don't know, I'm not good at this. Often this is said by the same people who are like, I don't know, I just can't relax. I think that what it involves, Michelle, is starting with the not knowing. And think about modern education and the way that we've all been brought up is we've not been taught that I don't know is an okay answer. We've not been taught that being unsure is okay. We've been taught you fake it till you make it, and that you don't let them see any signs of weakness. You don't show the cracks. We've been taught that having the right answer as quickly as possible is the capital W way. And so it feels really unfamiliar. So I would say the best gift that you can give yourself right now is to let it feel unfamiliar. Also, what did the sin work tell you just now? What did it show you? What did it point out to you? What were your light bulb moments? What were the things that you're most, I always say that like when we know the truth, like I say, like you guys might have heard this before on the podcast, like there's a truth and then there's like the motherfucking truth, which is the truth that you realize in your life and then you're like, oh man, I don't want that to be true. So is there some truth that you're avoiding? Is there a fear of disruption happening? What's really coming up? If you were to answer the question, like, I have no clue what it is that what I want to do. And often what people, if you're quiet long enough after that, they'll be like, well, here's what I do know. Here's what I really, and so another question I would give you and anyone who's wondering this too is, what would your like fuck it all move be? What would the move be that you made that you're like, all right, well, here goes. It's not safe. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't match what anyone else thinks you should do. What would that be? Because that often, can you tell I'm like getting excited? That often is going to point to a lot more than we tell ourselves. That's also why in my Raise Your Hand Say Yes class, right? I actually think that we talk about this, and this is a part of what I try to teach, where I don't think that life success is about being successful at any one thing. I think that it's partially about, for you, Michelle, is every day you wake up and you say, what do I need right now today, this moment? And then letting yourself have that. Whether it's a nap, or a sandwich, or to say something out loud, or whatever, right? What is it that you need right now? And I think that if you're able to give yourself that over time, continue to build a habit out of that, you'll get to the thing that you want, but you're going to do it without having it all figured out, because we're taught that we have to have it all figured out forever and ever, but we don't. Hannah asks, Michelle, let me know if that is helpful. Hannah says, what is something I can do when I fall back into faulting myself for my sins? What do you do to remind yourself that you're not an asshole? Yeah. Here's the thing, Hannah. You will fall back into yourself, but you will fall back into faulting yourself for your sins, quote unquote. You will. So know that it's going to happen. And what you can do is figure out right now in this moment how you're going to handle it when you do. How are you going to handle it? What are you going to do? What are you going to do differently? And one thing you can think about is answer the question by saying, if I'm showing up as a person who trusts herself, comma, I will, ... Right? What is that best version of you move? What is the move you can make that's not going to feel comfortable in the moment, but instead is going to make the future version of you most proud? Lead from that. right? And I think part of this is about setting yourself up for success so that when these momentary setbacks happen, when things get hard, when you're not sure, because fear is real, right? This isn't about banishing fear from your life. It's about learning how to take action despite it. It's about learning how to show up to the things that you really want and need in your life, even though the rest of the world is working against us, right? So you can decide now what you're going to do when things get rocky. What do I do to remind myself that I'm not an asshole? Well, I look at the people in my life who love me, and they're amazing, and like they wouldn't love me if I was an asshole. That's a really good thing to do. So I trust them. I also look at what's the truth. Here's the thing, y'all. Have I done asshole things in my life? Yes. Do I always act from a place of ultimate love and compassion? No. But the things that I've done, the mistakes that I've made, don't have to define me. They don't have to define who I am and my character. Especially if right now I want to make a choice to show up differently. So, Hannah, you can like make your phone wallpaper or say like, I am not an asshole. Whatever works, right? That's something that we talk about in the Raise Your Hand Say Yes class. It's like, whatever works, works. We often feel crazy for like needing to do X, Y, Z, but like do it. Whatever works, works. Let me see. I'm just checking in the chat. Michelle says, yes. I'm so glad you've got this clarity, Michelle. That's great. Here's the other thing that we realize that everybody learns when we start this year-long class together is that our lives are not necessarily set up to support this vision of ourselves. Take some rearranging. But without that rearranging, we're not going to be able to maintain it, right? So that's part of where we start with this class is like, what can we do to set you up for success? Because it's not about handing anybody more tasks to do. It's about really looking at all of the things, clearing the deck and being like, what fits and what doesn't. Let me see. Anne Rose says, how do you prioritize goals? She says, goal for 2019 is to pay off all consumer debt. So spending money on a class doesn't align with that. Am I being pragmatic or making excuses? I don't know. That is something only you can answer. I would say that if you feel like the nervous excitement right now, that's pointing to something. I also think that, like I said before, I think that we spend a lot of money doing things that aren't serving us. We spend a lot. I always tell people, like when they sign up for this class, I'm like, don't take any other classes, just do this. And often the signing up for the class isn't the scary part, it's actually following through. So I would say for you, Anne Rose, like figure out what your number one goals are. Figure out, spend some time, like look at the sales page for the class, read it. We put a lot of energy into that. And really lay out who it's right for and think about what would that investment in yourself give you? Would it then make it easier to really commit to this vision of life that you want that doesn't include debt? I can't answer that question for you. Only you can answer it. So that would be my recommendation of where to look. I can tell you that people who take the class and do the work and show up and get uncomfortable, I think that it's worth so much more than the dollar amount that they pay for it, right? That's what I have found over and over and over again, and witnessing the transformations that people have when they follow through and really look at things and take the time to answer the questions. How many of us think that like buying the book is the thing that is really going to move us forward, when really it's like, no, you got to answer the questions. But I'll also tell y'all this, for this class that I teach, for anything I do not take the privilege of being able to teach this work lightly. I do not take the privilege of being able to show up like this and talk about these things and have this kind of impact lightly. It is something that I cherish, that I take so seriously. So know that. And I am putting my all into it, and I love it. I love getting to do this work. So any other questions? Thank you guys. This is just such a delight. I love this. Let me know what, if you have any revelations. I'm going to send out the replay later on. Feel free to hit reply and let me know what kind of revelations you have, and all of that. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sticking it through and staying late and asking questions and writing down the things. Don't forget to keep writing those down. Explore that secret page in your journal and all of that. Thank you guys. Thank you. I'm going to send this recording out later. You might want to watch it again. Everyone have a wonderful day. You're all amazing. Thank you. I love you. You're doing great. You're not alone. Keep going.